Bienvenidos. Welcome to Chisme that Matters, a Latina podcast created to redefine chisme by having conversations about topics that matter. We'll be talking about personal finance, mental health, entrepreneurship, and so much more. This is your host, Kim Flo, and with our guest, we will be sharing our historias, expertise, journeys, and even our struggles so we can inspire and move our community. Here, every historia matters, and I can't wait for you to listen to them. And if you want some good and real chisme, this is the place to be at. Come on, let's be real. Who doesn't like some chisme? Hola, hello, mi gente. Welcome to another Chisme that Matters. This is your host, Kim Flo, and I am excited as usual because I'm going to have an awesome chisme with an amazing human being. And today's chismosa's name is Juan Calderon. Yay! And on top of that, we are recording this episode from Puerto Rico. And when I post this episode and you go to the YouTube channel, you're going to see the amazing view that we are. We're so excited to do this. So, anyway, I want to tell you guys that I met Juan years ago, I think in 2012, when I just started dancing and he was doing his thing with his team and all that. And then years later, I found him in Puerto Rico, and he had moved to Costa Rica. So we reconnected and it's been amazing. And I wanted to have him on the podcast because he has an amazing story. I think that you guys are going to be inspired. And with that being said, I'm gonna stop talking and introduce you to Juan. Yay!
Hola, mi gente.
Juan, thank you so much for joining.
Oh, my
And
pleasure.
I would like for you to introduce yourself and tell a little bit to people. I know you're not good with bios because I saw that somewhere, okay? So just say whatever you want to say, whatever you want to share with people out there. We don't judge.
Okay. Let's see. What do I say about myself? Okay, I'm born here in San Juan, Puerto Rico. My mom is Puerto Rican, my dad's Dominican, which means ever since I was born, I didn't fit in two places because the Puerto Ricans were like, "You're not Puerto Rican because you're Dominican," and the Dominicans were like, "You're not Dominican because you're Puerto Rican." So that's the beginning. That's my origin story. I start as a misfit. Shoot, like how interesting is that? And I've lived that my whole life. So let's fast forward to dance. Perhaps dance is one of the first times that I feel like I fit in because I found a community of people that were passionate about something that I was passionate about, music and dance. In the beginning, being a beginner sucks, especially at that time. My girlfriend was like, "You're not gonna be able to dance," because I used to be a football player in high school.
Really? Oh, wow. Okay. Good fact.
I was quarterback. Ready, set, hut, hut, hut.
Damn.
For an undefeated county championship team. This is like high school stuff. Oh my goodness gracious. So my girlfriend of the time was like, "You're not gonna be able to play. You're not gonna be able to dance. You're a football player," because that's how she saw me, right?
Right.
My sisters were like, "You're not gonna be able to dance." They also saw me as a football player. But besides being a jock, I was also an intellectual. So I was like, "There's nothing I can't do. I could be smart. I could be an athlete. I can be a dancer. I could be anything." So with perseverance and dedication, oh my goodness, that's like a whole story in itself. I'll give you a short version. I got a job just so I could dance, and an additional job. So I was a full time student in college. My goodness, Seton Hall University, and I had a part time job, which was almost full time. Well, 4 hours a day. 4 hours a day times 5 days a week. That was 20 hours. And on campus, I had a small little part time job there too. Wow, that was like 2 hours a day. So you're talking about another 10 hours. So I'm up to 30 hours a day working, 30 hours a week, 30 hours a week working, and a full time student. And I took an additional job at Continental Airlines, now known as United Airlines, so that I could fly, so that I could take dance lessons.
That's awesome.
From the gurus. And I was like, I'm not going to just learn from the local instructor. I'm going to go learn from the source, and I'm going to travel and go. And I did that for many years.
Okay.
So that was my first trained dance. And I would go to the nightclubs after training, and in a bit, people would be like, "Oh wow, how is it that you could dance with those people and those people and those people and those people? but they can't dance with each other. And it was because I took lessons with Antu salsa instructors, with Anwan salsa instructors,
Mm-hmm.
with Cuban salsa instructors, with Puerto Rican salsa instructors, with
Mm-hmm.
Colombian salsa instructors. So I learned multiple different subgenres of salsa.
Yeah.
Where in New York at that time, those were all separate cliques that didn't talk to each other, that actually would fight with each other, that didn't know how to dance with each other.
Mm.
So this is what led me to teach. Some people were like, Juan, you should teach because you could help bridge the gap between these people since you dance all the styles. That's how I began teaching.
Okay.
My goal was not to teach. I was a college student. I was studying business management at Seton Hall University. I was like going to be CEO of a Fortune 500 company, and then dance just like boom hit me like a freight train.
Yeah. It always does. I think it does to a lot of people, you know?
See,
Yeah.
yeah. So I started teaching right away in college. I was still a college student. I remember how it began. I called a local ballroom studio and I said, "Hey, we're doing a Latin dance festival,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to hire tango instructors." And they were like, "Tango? Don't you want some salsa, like to spice things up?" I'm like, "No, no, I'm gonna teach the salsa. I need people to come in and do a little tango demonstration and teach tango."
Okay.
And then the person on the line who's from this ballroom studio is like, "You're gonna teach salsa?" She's like, "Oh, I'm coming to campus to meet you. I want to know who you are." So this owner of a ballroom dance studio comes in to meet me and sees me teach dance,
Mm-hmm.
and she's like, "Okay, I want to give you a job." So I took another job
Okay.
teaching dance at a local ballroom studio. Man, I never tell this story. This is so much. I never share this story. There's so many like intricate parts.
Right. Yeah. Good.
Wow.
Nice. Well, keep sharing.
So I started teaching at this ballroom studio, and I really loved teaching. And besides loving to teach, I felt that I could help people learn like an easier way. I felt like I had cracked the code,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps from learning from different teachers or different schools of thoughts, different philosophies. So I took like the best from this one, the best from that one, like kind of combined it and created
Yeah.
my own version. So I felt like I could really help people to learn quickly and effortlessly. Like that was my little
Yeah.
tagline, like quickly and effortlessly. So I became the top instructor at that studio. So I had the most students doing the most hours, and I was selling the most packages. So that was the other thing. You gotta like sell your packages.
Right. Right. Right.
So my schedule was full. I was teaching. Wow. Every day I did from 3:30 to 10 p.m.
Mm. Well, that's a lot.
I know. Like shoot. So that was 3:30 to 10 p.m. Monday through Friday. I was doing that once I started that part of my life. And it just took over my life. It became like full-time job. After being at the dance studio for some time, man, this is like crazy story. They didn't like that I was wearing guayaberas. A
Mm.
guayabera, if you don't know, is the four pocket shirts which are typical to Puerto Rico, also Cuba and the Dominican Republic, although they have different names in different
We have
places.
it in Ecuador too. Guayabera.
Sí,
We got
también
guayabera.
guayabera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And guayabera because they would put guayabas back in the day when you were in the finca picking your guayabas, you would put them in the pockets. That's where I heard the name comes from.
Mhm.
Any case, I loved guayaberas and I had a collection of guayaberas that I would get whenever I travel
Really?
in every color and every style. So that was my uniform. So when I would teach salsa, I would wear my guayabera. And the owners, nothing against white people, but they didn't understand the culture.
Mm.
So they didn't like me wearing a guayabera. They wanted me to wear a button down shirt with a tie. And I was like, look, I don't think you understand. What I'm wearing is typical to the countries where salsa comes from.
Mm-hmm.
This button down shirt and tie is not. Like, if you allow me to wear this, the people are going to feel the connection that I have to the culture and I could transmute that to them. So they didn't like it. And for me, this was a deal breaker because I felt it was culturally insensitive and that they didn't understand. Plus, I was the top salesperson. I had the most students. I sold the most packages. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, you're actually coming up to me with complaints about me wearing a guayabera, a traditional shirt from Latin America, when I'm doing all these other things that are amazing. And I'm like, yeah. So that was like how the relationship started dissolving. And then I went on my own. I started my own school and It was called Cultural Explosion.
Mm-hmm.
So as you could tell, even with the name, that I'm really tied to the cultural aspect
Mm-hmm.
of the dance and la cultura. So let's see, let's fast forward. Many years later, Culture Explosion. Wow, I've taught around the world. I
Yeah.
got. I don't like to tell credentials. It sounds so like braggy, but
It's okay. We brag here. It's not about bragging. It's just about like
history,
remembering. And
sharing.
yeah, it's part of your story. And
Okay.
estamos aquí para contar nuestras historias, and that's
Okay.
part of your story. So go
Historia.
for it.
So I had a DVD that sold in Walmart.
Really?
In
Walmart.
Walmart.
Okay. Okay.
In Target. In Barnes and
Wait, what was this
Nobles.
DVD?
It
It was
was
dance.
it was
Oh,
salsa
that's so
instructional
funny.
DVD.
Wow.
It was actually the first salsa instructional DVD.
Mm.
Before that, of course, there were VHS,
Right. Right. Right.
but the media company that I was working with, that was their goal. They were like, "Hey, look,
Mm.
right now, when I started working with them, they were like, look, right now, 10% of the citizens of the United States have DVDs. By this time next year, 90% will have
Mhm.
DVDs. So
Okay.
only 10% will not. So they're like, look, technology's coming in strong. We want to beat the market
Right.
and have the first instructional DVD."
Oh, that's dope.
So I was like, I'm game. Let's do it. Now, they didn't tell me it was gonna sell in Walmart. I didn't know that. That was an amazing surprise. So all I knew was that the goal was to have the first salsa instructional DVD, and we did it.
I love that.
Then Walmart, Barnes and Nobles, Target, and some other stores that are no longer open. Tower Records. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm gonna go on a tangent. So that was like an amazing credential that got me a lot of gigs internationally, because some of those stores are international stores.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So they see that they'll be like, oh, he's good. He's been selling in Target and Walmart.
see, no, I met a person one day. I was checking into a hotel in New York for the New York International Salsa Congress, and the person that I met, he's the front desk person, tells me, "Hey, I was living in Japan. My girlfriend's from Japan, and we bought your DVD."
So funny.
And I was like, "What?" So this dude was in Japan, bought my DVD, and now I'm checking in to the hotel where he works at in New York, and like, so stories like that will come at me all the time.
That's cute.
So that was that. Another, let's call it credential or landmark moment in my life was I got 4 Lifetime Achievement Awards. At that time, from the biggest congresos in the US, which were New
Mhm.
York, LA, and Chicago. And one of them I got 2. So in one of them I got 2 awards, which
That's
was super
awesome.
cool. So New York at that time was one of the biggest ones. LA Salsa Congress was also one of the biggest ones, and Chicago International Salsa Congress was. Those 3 were the biggest ones
Yeah.
at that time. So, all right, let's leave that all behind. After all these accomplishments, I was not happy. Can you believe that? Like, how ridiculous!
It happens. a lot of people I feel like that I talk to, they have achieved so much and they're like, oh, I'm not happy because they have another calling. I feel like it's a phase. We go through phases. We go through stages, so it's okay.
That's beautiful.
You already kind of shed the skin. You know what I mean? And it's time for new. So it happens.
That resonates.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
It's okay. You were
I had another calling. Yeah, I really felt that. Plus, I mean, I've always been someone that enjoyed reading. I've always been someone that enjoyed intellectually stimulating conversations, always been someone that enjoyed the mind and expanding the mind. And dance was the body, basically,
Basically.
which I also enjoyed, and it was a passion for sure. It is still a passion. And I love it. I love it without a doubt. Yet I still felt something was missing. So I had achieved certain degree of success in salsa specifically, and Latin dance generally, and yet I felt like, what have I done? Like there's something else I want to contribute to this planet. Oh, another credential, which actually is so funny because you would think these credentials would make me happy. They actually frustrated me. So I performed in Madison Square Garden. I performed in New York Giants Stadium. And I performed at the legendary Chicago Theater. So for some people, that would be like their dream come true. I'm like, okay, like I can retire.
Yeah, yeah.
For me, it was just frustration because I was like, okay, so I've done this, I've done that, and I have been on TV and I've been on newspapers, and I was like, I'm not happy. So like, I wasn't happy as a human being.
Mm.
So maybe I was happy as a dance instructor. Maybe
Right.
I felt like I reached a level of success there that I was happy with, but I wasn't happy as a human being. Woo, that's deep, man.
Yeah.
All right, so fast forward 2013. 2013, I meet a life coach. I'm like, what the hell is a life coach? What do you coach? You coach life? Like, what does that mean? And this woman explained it in a way. When she was done with her definition of life coach, I was like, I want one of those. I was like, yeah.
Right.
Saying, like I'm gonna paraphrase, but to say, she says something along the lines of, I help people help themselves to achieve their goals. And I was like, wow. I was like, yeah, yeah, okay. I have goals that are not dance related that I want to achieve. Any case, in our little conversation, it was a short conversation. So she reveals what she does. She tells me, she defines life coach for me, and she knows that I'm a dance instructor, as I told her. And she was like, well, look, I'm interested in learning salsa. And I was like, hmm. So she mentions, let's do a barter, 1 hour of life coaching for 1 hour of salsa. And I was like, nah, I don't want that. I'm like, look, I could just pay for the life coaching.
Right.
And at that time, I wasn't conceited. I wasn't arrogant about it. Don't give me that look. I see that like.
No, because no,
Some people probably thought I was too.
No, I'm not. I don't know. I don't know if you were that, honestly. But I was just because it's interesting. A lot of people say that when they are dancers, so that's why I'm like waiting to see, what you're gonna say.
I mean, like with me, what I was
You're
experiencing.
you're proud, maybe. Are you proud? No.
No, I think confident. See, I
Okay.
think confidence, especially now where I'm at in my self development, I would say many times for someone that's struggling with insecurity,
Yeah.
confidence may look toxic.
Mm.
So I was confident because I had put the time, I had put the blood, sweat, and tears into my dance education. So I would walk to a nightclub and I'm like, okay, I could dance with anybody here. And I knew that I could, where some people, oh, they only knew this style, they didn't know that style. Any nightclub that I walked into in any city, in any state, in any country, I felt like I could dance with everybody. So I was really confident that I could show up, dance with people, and be their best dancer of the night, which is also like, so someone could hear me say that and they'd be like, how conceited, be their best dancer. It's not about conceited. I felt that I understood something that would help me give that person their best dance of the night. What was it? Well, perhaps one of them was connection. That I understood to connect with this person. What does that even mean? Well, it starts with asking them, would you like to dance salsa on one or on two? Or circular or linear, Cuban, Puerto Rican, Colombian. Like the fact that I understand that there's more than one style that exists means I'm gonna be able to connect with this person.
Yeah.
Whereas those people that only dance one style, well, you can't connect with everybody. Bachata, the same thing. I could go in and be like, okay, do you like sensual? Do you like traditional? Do you like modern, urban? Like, what style of bachata moves you?
Right.
And that means the person I'm dancing with already is having a different experience than when they dance with someone else that forces them
Right. Exactly.
to dance this specific style that they like.
When a certain way. Because one style is one thing, but people have their own ways too.
Where I'm gonna adjust to the style that they enjoy the most.
You're being considerate and mindful.
I like that. Considerate and mindful. Yeah, for sure. And that's what I was intentionally doing. I wanted to connect. I wanted to be considerate and mindful. Another word was consensual. So consensual, like consent, to seek for consent in the middle of the dance, to always be asking a question, to always be in an invitational instead of forcing. So this is something that I had learned from the different people that I studied under and that I had adopted and embodied into my life. So it made me feel really confident, which, like I said, sometimes translates into some people like conceited. Any case, I didn't feel I was conceited. I felt I was confident. When this woman asked me to do a barter, my confidence was telling me, nah, she's she doesn't charge as much as I charge. I'm like,
Did you
I am
really?
in my mind.
Oh,
I
okay,
didn't
okay,
say this
okay.
to her. In my mind, I'm like, I have 4 lifetime achievement awards. My DVD sells in Walmart and Barnes and Noble. Where does her DVD sell? Like, it doesn't matter how high of a life coach is she, unless she's like Anthony Robbins or one of these people. She's not gonna charge per hour what I charge. So I'm like, it's my loss, and perhaps my ego was in the way.
I was about to say that. I was about to say
Call me out. Yes.
that. I was like, it was like, okay, maybe his ego, because you know nowadays life coaches charge a lot of money.
Yeah, yeah.
So if it's say if someone tells me you want to exchange, and if I was a dance instructor, I'll be like, sure, I'm like stealing from you, but sure, you know what I mean? Because yeah, I mean dance instructors like they have trained, and obviously you charge more money, but it's kind of like about this, life
Mhm.
coaches charge a lot of money.
True that.
You know?
Yes.
But anyway, let's talk about your
No,
ego.
no.
Okay.
Let's talk about your
Your
ego.
ego.
So I let it go. I let go the ego. And I was like, you know what? I want this. Okay. So we trade time. So why not? One of my hours for one of her hours. I'm so happy I did that. I'm so grateful I did that. So I go first. It's my hour to teach dance. I teach her dance. I remember this like it was yesterday. It was 4th of July weekend, Philadelphia. Any case, it was the Philadelphia Salsa Congress or convention, I think they called it. So I teach her 1 hour salsa lesson, and at the end of the lesson, this is what she says: "You're not a dance instructor. You're a life coach." And I'm like, I'm like, what makes you say that? She's like, everything that you coached me through, everything that you taught me was actually a life coach lesson, and you just utilize dance to teach it to me. And I'm like,
Mhm.
so now at that moment, now I'm really intrigued. I'm like, okay, I need to understand this life coaching. I'm like, okay, explain this to me. So it turns over. Now it's my life coaching session. I could literally say in 1 hour, this person changed my life. Or maybe how she would say it, she helped me help myself to change my life,
Mhm.
And that resonates highly. But for sure, like my life changed in that hour. And like to try to like summarize that hour in like 30 seconds, basically she had asked me, okay, what are 3 goals that you have for this new year coming? And I was like, well, I'm a workaholic, and at that time, I was teaching 14 hours days, like Saturday, to give you an example. I would start at the dance studio at 8 a.m. and I would go to 10 p.m. That's 14 freaking hours. I didn't take a break. There was no 30-minute breaks. It would be 5 minutes in between lessons where I would sneak in a bag of Doritos, a Dr. Pepper,
Mm-mm.
and
I'm not judging, but
Oreo cookies.
that's not good.
This was lunch for me.
Ay,
It was
ay,
like
ay.
how ridiculous. And then like when I had a student that I've had for a while, I'd be like, "Oh, can you bring me a smoothie?" And I would pay them for the smoothie. But like lunch and dinner were was that.
Yeah.
Any case, that was horrible. So I was a workaholic, eating crap,
Mm-hmm.
not taking care of myself, and unhappy. Any case, so I was like, okay, one of the things I want to do is work less. Okay, second thing, make more money.
Mm-hmm.
Because although I felt I was doing well, I had been successful, I felt I still didn't have the finer things in life. I
Yeah,
couldn't
the balance.
afford.
Yeah.
I couldn't afford a vacation the way that I
Mm.
want a vacation. All my vacations were actually work trips.
So you were just like surviving, let's say,
Yeah,
in a way, like
surviving, not thriving.
financially and emotionally and physically. You were
Yeah,
just surviving.
thank you. That is
A lot
correct.
of us are done. A lot of us do that, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you. So I wanted to work less, make more money, and travel. So travel was like a deep passion inside of me that was like, I want to travel the world.
Yeah.
And in the dance scene, I had traveled, but for example, I would go to Rome to a salsa congress and never leave the hotel room.
Yeah.
So it's like, was I even in Rome?
Yeah,
Like I
exactly.
was at the Hilton or whatever hotel, but same thing would happen to Puerto Rico. We would come to Puerto Rico and I would never leave the hotel,
Um,
you know, and Every freaking city I went to, it was the same story. So,
Yeah.
like, was I really traveling? So, here's what happens 12 months after that 1 hour session, here's what ends up happening. I traveled to more countries in that year than I had my whole life.
Wow.
16 countries.
Damn.
I worked the least amount of hours and I made the most money in 1 calendar year than I had my whole life. So like I did the thing. So the thing that we sat down and she asked me, "What are your goals?" I accomplished them. So at the end of the year, at the end of that year, 12 months later, I write her this testimonial that's like amazing. Oh my God, the best life coach. And here's what happened. And I did this coaching. And now I had the most successful year. I went to the most countries and I made the most money. Pa, 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 pa. And I publish it like a Facebook
Yeah.
post. And she's like, nah, delete that. She's like, I don't want to get any clients that come with those expectations. She's like, I'm retiring from life coaching. You're my last client. I want to retire on you. And I'm like,
Okay.
okay, all right. I wasn't gonna argue with her. So she tells me she wants to train me to be a life coach, to do,
What she was doing.
and I was like, I didn't have a hesitation, which is interesting. Because sometimes when someone tells you something like that, you're like, yeah, like your initial reaction is a contraction.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, what do I want to? I was like, I'm in. So we began the training, and the beginning of the training was her role playing and me coaching the role play.
That's awesome.
This happened for some time, and then somewhere along the line, she says, "Hey, that last person I was role playing, I wasn't role playing. That was me, and you coached me well. Go, coach."
Love it.
Uh huh.
Okay.
So, like, this was wow. It's like 2 years later. So 2013 is when I have my coaching session. Between 2013 and 2014, I travel. Between 2014 and 2015, I do my training. So let's say 2 years later, I open up this website. I never use it. It's just like there in the background. Sometimes somebody will ask me because I'll put a post on Facebook about some self development and they'll ask me, "Oh, do you coach?" So I will have some clients here and there, but I wasn't promoting it. I wasn't putting on Facebook, "Hey, I'm a coach," this and that.
Yeah.
For many years, it was just like in the background. And
Or you were still like dancing. Or
yeah,
yeah.
but like dancing less.
Mm-hmm.
I started realizing I didn't like. Yeah, thank. This is a really good question. Thank you. So 2000, in 2013 is where everything changes in my life. Everything, because the personal development journey starts.
Right.
Besides the personal development journey starting, I also realized I am not in alignment with the dance world. Example: congresses, festivals, conventions. At that time, I was doing like two a month. So you're talking about 24 conventions a year.
Yeah.
And there were some months that I did three.
Yeah.
So, but let's just keep it with the low estimate.
I just want to make a parenthesis for those who are listening that are non-dancers, from the dance community. Is like when you become a dancer, instructor, and you're in this world, it's heavy. It's like a lot going on. It's like you are, like you said, congresses. You have like it could be there are like festivals like maybe every week somewhere, and you
100%.
travel. You're here. There's no time. Like that's one of the things that I do not miss about dancing is that traveling and performing, and like you said, like you don't go out, like you travel all these places but you stay in a hotel and it's really hard to like explore
Rehearsing all weekend long for that show that's gonna be 3 minutes on
like
stage.
I was remembering like the other day I was like I used to go to Queens from Jersey to rehearse on a Sunday. Y yo ahora, yo no puedo ir ni siquiera to freaking Jersey City. I'm like, I'll be like, no, I'm not doing this on a Sunday. I don't have the energy. And that's one of the things that I feel like, and also like you meet a lot of people that it could be a little toxic too. Dance, if people think, oh, dance is something that liberates you, yes.
Yes.
But sometimes the people in the community, it could be a little toxic.
I'm glad you brought that up. And nothing against the dance community.
No.
I would say every community
Has something.
has, let's go from toxicity to predators to just all the levels of energy that exist in the world. Because the dance world is just like a micro of the full world. So like
Mm-hmm.
whatever exists in the world is also going to exist in the dance scene.
Yeah.
So that can be heavy. Any case, I realized that wasn't my vibe. I didn't want to be doing conventions anymore. And I end up going to a yoga retreat. My sister's a yogi, so she's a yoga instructor, and it was in Costa Rica, out of all places. So this is 2014. I go to Costa Rica. This was one of the 16 countries I traveled to that year. So one of my sister's yoga retreats I show up to in Costa Rica, and I was like, this is amazing. I'm here at this event, and they wake up. There's sunrise yoga, there's sunset yoga, and in between we go hike the volcano, go to the hot springs, go to the beach, go to the jungle, check out the sloths. And I was like, I love this. I'm like, I want to organize yoga retreats without yoga.
Mm. Okay.
So that was my idea, and I did it. I realized, well, instead of yoga, I could just substitute dance. I could do, and at that time, I was already doing both teaching salsa and bachata. I was like, I could do salsa workshops, I could do bachata workshops instead of yoga workshops. And in between the workshops, we go hike the volcano, go to the beach, go on an ATV ride, zip line, blah, blah, blah. So I Googled at that time dance retreats. It didn't exist. It wasn't even a phrase. The only thing close to it was this style of dance that's not partner dance, which is ecstatic dance. So there were certain ecstatic dance events that happened at retreats. The word retreat usually only came up in yoga, meditation, and in some spiritual type of events. But with dance, hardly any at all. Then, if you specifically looked up partner dance, the only thing that came up in partner dance and like partner dance vacations, this was in 2013, 2014, was Cuba. You could go on a Cuban salsa vacation, like that existed. So Cuba has salsa tourism. Um, Tango. In Argentina, they would have tango tourism. So these were the only two things that I found in my Google search. And I was like, wow, this is a huge market that's wide open and it's not existent in the salsa and la bachata world. So that was my vision. I was like, I want to have salsa and bachata vacations. And I'm gonna call them retreats, but basically at the end of the day, it's a dance vacation, you know? So like a vacation with a purpose.
Yeah. Okay.
And my concept was opposite of the Congress. So what was the Congress goal? To have thousands of people. I wanted 10, 20 people. So I didn't want a big crowd. I wanted a small crowd. The Congress is have as many workshops as possible, filling up the whole day that you never leave the hotel room. Yeah. I want to have the least amount.
Yeah.
Like 2, maybe 4 at the maximum hours in one day, so that the rest of the day we're experiencing the country. Social dancing, Congress, from 8 p.m. to like 6 a.m. I was like, I want to make it short and like good, short and sweet, so that then you get your nice rest. Tomorrow we're gonna go, boom, explore the country.
Nice.
Food, I wanted to have a chef. Yeah, and I haven't. They're not all chef retreats. I've done it all. So I've done where we cook our own food. I've done where we go out and eat at restaurants, and I've done the chef. But chef is the one that I'm most excited about because I like to hire chefs that cook healthy food.
Right.
And I like to hire chefs that do something different than what the average person has experienced. Example, a plant-based chef. So a plant-based chef that's doing creative dishes that people are like, I never even knew that this existed. Like, what? What am I eating? It's a hamburger, but there's not really beef in it. It's made from plants, like things like that. So I was passionate about that also because it didn't take time from our day. Somebody else was preparing.
Right. Exactly. Cool.
So that was my idea for retreats. So I started it back then. So it's my self development journey. My congresses, I'm kind of like ending them slowly, exiting out of there, and promoting retreats. And I start doing them around the world. So I do Puerto Rico, I do Dominican Republic, I do Bali, I do Thailand, Sydney, Australia, Guatemala. I start just like where can I do them? You know, like I
Mm.
just started traveling all around the world. And basically this was the concept: dance, nature, life. That's the theme: dance,
Mm.
nature, life. Bucket list retreats. So bucket list destinations, destinations that people already wanted to go to.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, hey, we can go here and dance.
Mm. Okay. That's a lot.
That's how it begins.
Cool.
Fast forward, 2020. Dun dun dun. All right. So by 2020, I had done over 30 group retreats.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Mm-hmm. And that's like, and I had traveled between 2013 to 2020, 7 years, to over 80 countries.
And where you were, where you were living at that point? Are you still like did you
I
move
was in
already
New
to Costa Rica or
Jersey,
New Jersey?
New Jersey, and then at some point I had a fire. Shoot, I can't even remember what year right now. I'm gonna say 2017. In 2017, I have a fire that burned everything, my whole apartment, all of my belongings, every single thing was just like dust,
Oh my god.
ashes. And I found I was out of Congress, of course, that weekend. I was at the Atlanta, I don't remember if it was salsa or salsa and bachata, the Atlanta Salsa and Bachata Festival.
Mm-hmm.
And I see on Facebook a friend of mine shares a video about a fire that the firefighters were having trouble putting out. And I'm like, that looks like my block. Oh my goodness, that's my block. That looks like my building. Oh my God, that is my building. And this is in the news
Oh no.
because the firefighters couldn't put out the fire.
Oh my god.
I know, how crazy is that? So I'm looking at it through Facebook and I'm like, wait, what?
Wow.
So I contact my sister, who wasn't home, because she also did a lot of traveling. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. She's in Georgia, the country.
No man.
But she already had spoken to someone back
Yeah.
home, so she knew more than I did. And I'm like, wait, what? Everything burned? And she's like, everything burned. I'm like, when you say everything, you mean everything? She said, stop asking everything. I'm like, what? So here's what happens: frustration, anger,
Mm-hmm.
sadness, depression. Man, I went through like a roller coaster. Can't even call it a roller coaster because that's up and down, right? I went through a up of negative emotions, like one after the other, like,
Yeah.
or maybe I should call those down. So I'm going downhill. A downward spiral of negative emotion. That's a good
Yeah.
metaphor.
Yeah.
Downward spiral of negative emotions. I don't know how long. Let's say 10, 15 minutes. And I'm like going deeper. My mind just keeps getting darker, right? And I'm like, what am I doing? Okay, Juan, if you were coaching someone who just had this experience happen,
Mm.
how would you coach them? And the answer came to me instantly, which would be, what are you grateful for? What are you grateful for right now? I asked myself that question.
Mm.
So I'm like, okay, what am I grateful for right now? Okay, I wasn't there, so I didn't burn.
Yeah.
I'm alive. No other humans were hurt or killed. So
Mhm.
no humans were injured. No pets were hurt. So I'm like, I didn't get hurt. No humans got hurt. No pets got hurt. So I went from I lost everything in a fire to I only lost material, superficial things.
Mm.
Like, just think about that mindset.
Yeah.
I lost everything in a fire to, oh, I only lost superficial things,
Yeah.
material, belongings. Who
Mm.
cares? Like, so I don't know. After 15 minutes of the downward spiral of negative emotions, it took me 3 minutes to snap out of it. And this is this concept me and you were talking about earlier at the beach. Sometimes people say how hard something is,
Yeah.
and I agree. It can feel hard if you don't have the right tools. And something I'm really passionate about is about learning, understanding, and exploring and experimenting with tools. At that moment, what tool did I use? The gratitude tool. So by asking myself, what am I grateful for? It shifted my mindset from thinking about everything I was angry, frustrated, upset, depressed about into wow, look at what I'm grateful for. I'm alive, other humans are alive. Nobody got hurt, no pets got hurt. Like only the only thing that burned was superficial materials
Yeah.
and stuff. So it was like a final exam. It's like, Juan, you want to be a life coach? Can you handle chaos in your life? Because yeah, you could be a life coach when life is hunky dory and everything's good.
Right.
But what if here's the fucking
That's
here's
me.
the curveball? Like, can you coach yourself out of darkness if all of your belongings have burned in a fire? And I did, and it took me 3 minutes.
Awesome.
After 15 minutes of downward spiral, the moment I was like, okay, how would I coach myself? How would I coach someone else? It took me 3 minutes. And in those 3 minutes, I was like, wow, it's a beautiful lesson. I'm going to use this in the future. So then it was like this thing that happened to me that I was so sad about. I'm like, I'm so happy it happened. I can
Right.
use this to coach others.
Absolutely.
So, I don't know, I think that was 2017. So when that happened, oh, this is the ridiculous part. Ridiculous in a good way, in a fun way. I had a friend that calls me, and it's a good friend. And this person says, Juan, I heard you had a fire. I'm so sorry to hear that. Bah, 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 bah. I'm like, oh, no, don't be sorry. This was the most convenient year for me to have a fire. And they're like, what? They're like, Juan, look, man, I'm a friend of yours, and we've been friends for years, and I know you're a life coach, and that you love that. But
Don't be too positive. You
yeah.
don't have to be too positive. Yeah.
She's like, but that sounds kind of ridiculous.
It's okay, cry if you want to. Don't hide it.
And they were saying, look, that sounds kind of ridiculous. The most convenient year for you to have a fire. Like, yeah, like feel the negative emotion, feel the sadness. I'm like, look, I really mean it. I really mean it. This year, I have 10 retreats scheduled. And each retreat takes 10 days. And I normally arrive a couple days before and a couple days after. So you're looking at 2 weeks out of every month that I am in another country. So I'm going to pay rent in an apartment for 2 weeks a month that I'm going to be there. And here's what also happens. Sometimes I would go from one country to explore another country to add for a future retreat, what I call field work. So here's my field work.
Yeah, you're doing research and stuff like that. Exactly.
So I'm like, okay, do I like this country? Do I want to host here? So I was gonna be in an apartment that I wasn't gonna be in.
Exactly.
So it's like, awesome, I'm going nomadic. Live where I'm living, live where I am. Simply. And what did I have? I had one bag. I had a backpack, not even a carry-on. A backpack that I had in Atlanta, Georgia. Oh wait, you know what? I think I did have a small carry-on. So I had a backpack and a small carry-on. Everything else had burned. But what was in that backpack and small carry-on? My favorite outfits. So I was like, yeah, because I took what I wanted to wear that weekend. So
Right. That's funny.
I know it's so silly.
And you had your passport.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and my laptop, like all the things that I needed, and I was like, I don't need anything else. There's a song that goes, I've got everything I need. I got everything I need. I've got everything I need. Ooh, from the mountain to the seas, I got everything I need. I've got everything I need. Ooh. Okay, so I got everything I need. Fast forward. So that's 2017. I'm nomadic. I think if I remember correctly, it was 2017. It could have been 18. 2020 arrives. New Year's Eve, I'm hosting a retreat in Thailand. So I'm in Thailand as a New Year's Eve retreat. After that, I'm doing some field research, and I went to Malaysia. I'm jumping around countries. I think I did Bali, Malaysia, Singapore, a couple of countries there. That's where I am in January, which I do believe then I got sick. But at that time, I didn't have a name. So I didn't know what I had. I just thought I had a cold. But I remember it hit me. It was strong, and I was like in a room for like a week, and I was like, I couldn't leave that room. I was like, but after that, I was fine and good and ready to go. Any case, this was January 2020. March 2020, I am in New Orleans. No, Nashville. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. Nashville, Tennessee. And my event was canceled. I was supposed to teach workshops that weekend. And it's my first event that gets canceled in 2020. And I'm like, oh, the US is about to shut down. Like, that's the thought in my head. I'm like,
Yeah.
the US is about to shut down. If events start canceling, what's next? Airports are closing. So I was like, okay, where do I want to be when the airports close? So now the next day I'm catching a flight back to New Jersey. I'm in the air. I'm on this flight from Nashville, Tennessee to Newark, New Jersey. And I say to myself, okay, I don't want to be in Newark. I don't want to be in New Jersey. I don't want to be in New York. I don't want to be anywhere in that tri-state area right now. So I then panic. I have anxiety. I'm scared, frustrated, angry. All the downward spiral kicks in again.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, Juan. And like I get better. Instead of slapping myself in the head, I'm like, Juancito, how would you coach somebody if they told you this? And I would say, my answer was quick. It was like, okay, I would tell them, don't allow fear to dictate their decisions. Instead of deciding on fear, decide on love. Where would you love to be right now? And my answer was Costa Rica. It was like instant. I'm on this flight. Right before I asked this question to myself, I got the airplane Wi-Fi and I'm checking which state has the least amount of infections. This is March 2020. The state was Nebraska. I was like, what's in Nebraska? Like I had never I had never been to Nebraska and I couldn't even visualize Nebraska. If you name me another city, there's something I could visualize. Or another state, there's something I could visualize. Nebraska, there was no picture in my mind. I'm like, what is in Nebraska?
Yeah.
I'm so glad I didn't find out. Because what I was doing at that moment, there's a name for it in psychology. It's called an away from motivator. So fear is an away from motivator. You're running away from something. So I was running away from something. And what happens when we have an away from motivator, when we're running away, we don't have a clear destination because we're just running away. It's why people in horror movies trip. They don't have a towards motivator. They don't have a set goal of where they want to go. They're just running away from the monster. So because they keep looking back at the monster, then they trip because they're only running away, not running towards something. So if you're ever in a horror movie,
Yeah, I'm in a horror movie every day. Life is a horror
don't be
movie.
manifesting
No,
that.
okay, no,
I'm
no,
just
no, no,
kidding.
I'm not.
You are in a fairy tale. I mean, we are in Puerto Rico. I found you in La Isla del Encanto.
I know.
This is not a horror movie.
It's not. It's
Yeah.
not. I love Puerto Rico.
Sí,
This is
sí,
why
sí.
I came because I was like really running towards something because I was running away. And every time something, I'll tell you later about it. But every time there was a lot of things that led me to this trip, and then I was every little thing will be like, oh no, that's a sign that I shouldn't be going. There's a sign. There's a sign. Yeah, even onto the airport, it was delayed like 2 hours now. I was like, maybe I should just go back home. I was so scared, but I was like, nah, f fear, and I was like, I'm going because I want to be in Puerto Rico. So yeah, so I can relate to what you're talking about.
Dude, what you just said. And I don't know why I say dude. I don't
It's
know.
okay.
Just
It's fine.
do that.
No, they-
So do that. So, oh, this thing that you just mentioned, like you saw them as signs that you shouldn't be going.
yeah.
I had a friend who was telling me, Juan, and it was the same thing. They had this flight and they woke up late. The alarm didn't go off. Then they called the Uber. The Uber canceled. Like everything kept going. And they were like, oh, this is the universe speaking to me. And the universe telling me not to go. And I thought about it for a minute and I was like, look, I understand how you could come up with this. And I don't know about you, but I don't speak universe. I'm not fluent in the language of the universe. What if the universe, like if this was my story, what if the universe was trying to tell me, show me how bad you want to go?
Yes, that's how I took it.
How can you get around this obstacle? Like, show me you want to go bad.
Yep.
So for me, this is this concept of the universe speaking. We don't always understand what the universe is saying. So the universe can be saying, "Hey, don't go." That could be possible, but the universe could be saying, "Show me that you really want to go. Show me that you could troubleshoot. Show me that you could come up with a different way. Show me your dedication."
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Mm.
That's how I saw it.
Good. I'm glad to hear.
I guess. Yeah. But anyway, goes back. So with Nebraska.
Nebraska. So that was my away from motivator, running away. And as I mentioned, when you're running away, you don't have a clear destination. So it's easy to get distracted, it's easy to get lost. A towards motivator. So usually running away from motivator, fear based. Towards motivator, love based. So like you're running towards something you love. So if we use that horror movie example, I'm gonna run to the police station. I know exactly where the police station is. I'm gonna run there. So if you think about almost every horror movie, almost every scary movie, if they don't trip from looking back at the monster, they end up in a dead end. How did they end up in a dead end? Again, because they're motivators to run away instead of run towards. Because if you're running towards the police station, you're not going to end up in a dead end because you go into the police station.
Yeah.
So it's like a typical movie thing, or they end up in a room that doesn't have an exit. Again, because they're running away, not running towards. So this concept of towards motivator, what the psychologists say is that when you have a goal that's an away from, it is harder for you to reach it because there's not a specific destination. When you have a goal that's towards, there's a very specific destination. So I was like, okay, my towards motivator is where would I love to be? Costa Rica. Instantly. So like, forget about Nebraska, forget about Googling this. I want to be in Costa Rica. Why did I want to be in Costa Rica? Because I have been there for my sister's retreat, yoga. I had loved the nature. I had loved the abundance of nature. I had loved the different ecosystems. It felt like I could be in one country, but yet be in different worlds in that one country. I love that they conserve the land. They are into reforestation instead of deforestation. They have clean water. They have a government that I feel I can trust. They dismantled their military and they put that money towards education. I'm like, why can't we do that? Why are we not doing that? Like, can we do that?
Exactly.
They've had a female president, which to me shows like the way that their progressive thinking is, the way that their perception of how the world works is. Where we haven't had a female president yet. I'm like, why not? hmm So, so many little things like that. It's illegal to hunt. It's illegal to have wild animals. Like you can't have a monkey as a pet or a macaw or a sloth. Where at one point people did. People had those as pets. Now all that is illegal. You could only have cats, dogs, and certain types of birds that are what they would consider domestic pets. Any case, Costa Rica resonated high with me.
Right.
I get off the flight from Nashville, Tennessee to Newark. I'm at the Newark airport and I look at the board and I see Costa Rica leaving in 15 minutes. I run to the gate and I'm like, okay, I want to buy a ticket to this flight. No, we can't sell you a ticket because we're about to close the gate. And I'm like, what? Now, at that time, I was traveling to a whole lot of countries. I had already done 80 countries. So I called United Airlines and I'm like in their high VIP, silver elite, one of those, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And they pick up right away because they don't keep you holding on these.
Yeah.
So they're like, all right, Mr. Calderon. They already know your name. All right, Mr. Calderon, how can we help you? And I'm like, I want to get on this flight. They're like, okay, not only can we get you on, you didn't even got to pay for it because you got enough miles that we could use from your program. And I see a first class seat. We'll get you upgrade. Pop, 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 pop. Boom. I'm on the freaking flight.
Wow.
I'm on the flight. And the captain's like, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to flight 1432 going to San Jose, Costa Rica. We want to congratulate you as the country's about to close their international airport. This will be the last flight being allowed into Costa Rica.
Wow.
Now I'm celebrating, but the person next to me was just going for a weekend. And now they're like, wait, what? What? Now I did it on purpose. I wanted to go to Costa Rica to be locked in.
Right.
Other people on that flight, that was not their purpose. That was not their. Any case.
Did they get out?
No, I think they were like, I'll figure it out later.
Oh my god! Well, that's the mentality. That's good.
So I go to Costa Rica. The airport closes. We're stuck in Costa Rica.
Yeah, yeah.
The government extends our visa, anybody that came in like I did, for a whole year. So we got a, instead of a 3 month visa, which is normal for tourists, we got a whole year. So this is March 2020. November 1st, the international airport opens up to the whole US. I think it started maybe like 1 month before, and they opened up to like 2 states. I don't know what was their categories or their criteria,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they were soft opening, and then they were like, all right, whole US could come in.
Mm-hmm.
So November 1st, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start hosting the retreats that I used to host, but now just in Costa Rica.
Mm.
And at first, because people were scared to travel in groups at that time, many people were. I started doing solo retreats. So I started doing like solo retreats in Costa Rica. I sold out the first 2 months in like a couple of days.
Awesome.
So it's like I was doing like 1 week at a time. People were like, "Can I get 2 weeks?" And I was like, "Okay, we got the 2 weeks. It's double, boom." So I booked November and December like instantly, and then I started booking January, and I was like, "Wow, this is like people were hungry to travel."
Yeah. And also,
And
like, I guess the type of traveling that, I mean, the type of retreat that you were doing, because people be like, oh my God, we've been inside. I need to find myself. I need to do something. You know what I
see,
mean? Yeah.
yeah, and like that was my marketing. I would post pictures and videos on Facebook of me hanging out with a sloth, like in the wild, me hanging out with the monkey in the wild, me hanging out with the macaw and the toucan, and the beaches and the hot springs and the volcano. So all of my posts were nature.
Mm-hmm.
And every once in a while, I would do like a little talk, like the forward, like the toward and the away from motivators. So I would also do like life coaching posts.
Right.
So people were already knew what I was offering in Costa Rica.
Mm-hmm.
I also, man, this is like, I don't talk about this much because it could scare some people. I lived 3 months with a shaman. So,
That's awesome.
so March I arrived in Costa Rica. April, May, June. June 19th is my birthday. So April, May, June. So 3 months, like 3.5 months after I arrived into Costa Rica, it's my birthday, and I'm like, okay, like the world's coming to an end. Like, at that time, like, who knew? Like, I was like, how long am I gonna be in Costa Rica? Like, is the countries ever gonna open up again? Like, I'm having these thoughts, and I'm like, I want to go learn from a shaman. I want to open up my mind to things that I've had my mind closed to. So I had never smoked a cigarette.
Mm-hmm.
I don't drink alcohol. I drank alcohol one time when I turned 21, and I got drunk. I didn't like it. Someone took advantage of me too sexually.
Oh no.
Mm-hmm. And something I never even admitted to. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even talk about it ever.
Right.
It was just like last year that I'm like, oh shoot, that was rape. Fuck.
That's right.
Any case, that's a healing in Costa Rica.
Oh man, yeah, sounds like it. I love that.
Mm-hmm. So I don't drink alcohol. I don't smoke cigarettes. I had never done acid or this CBD, marijuana, nothing. Zero. I'm talking about zero. And then I'm like, yeah, I want to go stay with a shaman and have some ayahuasca, magic mushrooms, and kambo, bring it all, sananga. And I think part of me was like, I don't know what's going on in the world. I don't know what's going to happen in the world, but I want to understand parts of my mind that I have closed. So being in an altered state, I had never experienced on purpose. Intentionally, I didn't want to be in an altered, except that one time I got drunk at 21.
Yeah, it was.
So besides that, I had never been in an altered state. And perhaps, I guess sugar can be an altered state. Perhaps the only altered state I've been on is sugar, because I did like sweets. But other than sugar, no altered states. No coffee, because coffee is also an altered state.
I know. I stopped drinking coffee
Mm-hmm.
after COVID. Like that. I used to love coffee. Like 1 cup a day, it was my thing, and that was my little ritual in the morning. After COVID, I was like, I couldn't taste it, and now I don't drink it. Yeah, it's so
because your taste buds change.
I guess. I don't know. I mean, I didn't lose my taste buds, but I don't know. When I was in,
But it doesn't taste good to you anymore.
Well, I tried the other day to see. It was okay, but it's not something that I crave anymore. Like in the past, every morning,
That's
si yo no tenía mi
interesting.
café, Joe, oh my God, my coffee was like my thing.
Mm.
So I changed the ritual for yoga, 10 minutes yoga, and then cold
Oh,
showers.
nice.
Cold showers in the
Wim
morning when it's
Hof.
yeah.
Have
I
you
was like,
watched the Wim Hof
no,
documentaries?
I have not. People have told me
He
about it, but I
does the
know what it is.
cold shower
I want to do
experiment.
like the thing with like ice.
He
I've
does
never
that.
done that.
He does
I
it.
don't like in the morning showers. Like, oh my god, but it's good for me. So I'm like, I guess it's
I'm
fine.
gonna send you a link
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
Wim Hof
yeah.
documentary. Cool.
Anyway, so go back to them.
So
So you haven't done none of the stuff.
none of it.
Guys, sorry for that. We are really close to an airport, so if you, yeah, it's fine.
You
It's
might
live.
even see some planes landing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So okay, Alter State, never been,
Yeah.
and now I'm about to enter like the lion's den of Alter
Oh
State.
my gosh.
Oh, I'm gonna rewind like a little tiny bit.
Yeah.
2 months before the shaman,
Yeah.
I'm in Costa Rica, so I have been there March to April, April to May. 2 months. I have been in Costa Rica 2 months. I'm in Costa Rica 2 months, and then I'm like, no, I think I have been in Costa Rica like a month and a half. Okay, I've been in Costa Rica a month and a half, and then I'm like, I had I had moved to the mountains. I was in the mountains. My closest neighbor was 5 minutes away driving.
No.
No neighbors. I could walk around the land hiking in this, let's call it mountain
Wow.
place. Yeah, but no people. And after like a month and a half of that, I was like, I kind of miss people. I wanted like to see some people. And I was like, all right. So I had this brilliant idea, which was, what if I contact the yoga retreat center who no longer has yoga retreats because there's no tourists being allowed in, and I rent property from them.
Mm.
So I contact the fanciest yoga retreat center that I would never be able to afford. And I'm like, they don't have clients right now. Like, if I could ever be able to get a spot here, it would be now. So I send them a message, an email, and the secretary calls me the next day and she's like, hey, we never done that. We don't do that. But right now, the owners are staying on the property. And like, look how fancy this place is. She's like, the campus, they call it a campus. The campus can hold 40 people. House, 40 people like to stay over.
Yeah.
And there's only 8 people living there right now. She's like, two other owners, one is from New York, the other one's from LA, and the third owner is from Costa Rica. All three of them are living there, plus some yoga coach, some meditation coach,
Yeah.
the chef. So it's like all people that were retreat organizers and retreat
Yeah.
in the retreat world. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, that's where I want to be. I'm like, yeah, I want to be a month around people that do what I do.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's gonna be like our own retreat. I'm
Right.
like, yeah, let's do it. So the secretary calls me and she's like, all right, I'm gonna talk to the owner, and one of the owners haven't talked to you. So one of the owners calls me, the one from New York, and he's really cool. And he's like, you know what? Let's do it. He's like, all right, I'm gonna give you an offer. Bah, 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 bah. It was much more than I've ever spent for a month anywhere.
Mm.
It was 3,000 US dollars. And
Damn.
I was like, yeah, like you could get a pretty nice apartment in New York for 3,000 US
Yeah.
dollars.
What? We're like, let me go back to the states.
Yes. Any case, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna splurge, and like the world's. It was that concept of how long is the world gonna be? Like, I don't
Just
know.
live life in the moment. I deserve this.
And I was like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna splurge. Who cares? So I was like, I'm gonna do it. Now the crazy thing is that that's still half price of what it would have cost
Really?
if it wasn't that it was closed for COVID. I know.
Mm.
Like, so this place was. Look, I'll tell you how fancy the place was. They had Bali style homes that they brought from
Mm.
Bali by boat. 200-year-old Bali homes. This is how
Wow.
fancy this place is. It's up on a mountain, so like literally, like people don't drive by it. You have to like know where you're going and then drive up this mountain. And then on this mountain, we're at this mountaintop where you could see in the distance the horizon and the
Oh, that's
sunset
cute.
on the beach. This is where we were.
Mm.
Okay, how fancy is the place? A couple weeks later, they come out on the Costa Rican newspaper. The best place to pass quarantine, COVID times, lockdowns in Costa Rica. And this was the place. And this is where I was. So after they took me in, the owners were like, why don't we take people in? Like, so
Damn.
I was the first
You
one.
give them an idea.
Uh-huh. I was the first one to be a tenant during lockdown quarantine life. And look at this is gonna sound ridiculous. There was a couple that flew in from New York, and I'm like, but wait, the airports are closed. No, because they have a private jet. Who are my next door neighbors? And I know because I met them at breakfast one morning, and they were telling me about how they flew in on the company jet, and I'm like, my what? This is my neighbors. This is where I was. I don't share this story with people. This is the first time I share this publicly.
Nice.
But yeah, that's I spent the month
And that's literally
in this fancy world. Uh-huh. So after a month, I was like, "Ah, I'm gonna go broke. I can't stay there another month.
yeah.
I got some coaching clients
Mm-hmm.
just from talking at breakfast, and people were like, okay, you know what, we want to book you. That then they paid for my next month.
Nice.
So I stayed there 2 months in the fanciest of fancy in Costa Rica. At the end of that, I was like, I'm done with this.
Like,
Like,
let me humble myself.
yeah, I'm like, I want to have my hands in the dirt.
Okay.
And I was like, I had the idea about the shaman. This woman that I met at the fancy resort, at the fancy yoga retreat center, said, hey, I'm going to a shamanic retreat for a week. I'm like, I don't know what that means, but sign me up. I'm coming.
Yeah.
Yes, let's go. So I show up to meet the shaman. By the way, I had already, I don't know, send him a text message or something and a voice message, and he had never responded to me. So like he wasn't responding to my messages. And I'm like, I don't have a reservation. I don't have like what happens if the shaman says no? Like where am I staying tomorrow? Like
Right.
I don't even have a place to go. I'm like, so then in my mind, I'm like, this shaman's a genius. By the shaman not responding, by the shaman not saying no, means I'm not gonna go get another reservation. But by the shaman not saying yes, I'm also stuck. And I'm like, this guy's a genius. So I show up and I'm thinking the whole thing was like a mental like sales pitch, right?
Mm.
And then I realized I'm being interviewed. So the
Mm.
shaman's asking me like, what's your intention? And I'm like, oh shoot. The shaman hadn't said yes or no because the shaman needed to interview me to see if I was there for the right reasons that they would allow me to stay with them. And I'm like, wow, I'm entering like a whole other dimension. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this is how it's gonna be. I'm like, I'm being interviewed. So
Mm.
I got real serious. I sobered up. I was like, okay, yeah, this is my intention. Da 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 da. I get approved. So the shaman allows me to move in for a week. It was a week long retreat. Every day, a different plant medicine. I don't know if I remember all of them, but I think it was tobacco, marijuana, San Pedro, which is like a cactus,
Wow.
cambo, sananga, ayahuasca, magic mushrooms. That sounds about
Mm-hmm.
right. So 7 days, a different plant medicine every day, a different journey of your mind every day, and also other lessons like planting trees. We planted
Mm.
trees. We farmed the land. We picked fruits. Every day, the daily harvest given by the earth, the abundance.
Yeah.
So there was like a lot going on, not just plant medicine, meditation, yoga. There was tai chi, qigong, a whole lot of everything. I learned how to make fire without, a lighter.
Like, yeah, of course.
Um, Goodness, so much, so much, so much, so much, so much. After that week, I was like, I don't want to leave. I'm like, can I stay here a month? So I stayed there a month.
Wow.
After the month, I'm like, can I stay here another month? Stay there 2 months. Let me see if I remember correctly. June to July, July to August, August to September. Stayed there 3 months. 3 months living
Damn.
with the shaman, learning from the shaman. On the third month, so right before the third month begins, me and a few of the people that have been with the shaman were like, can we do a 1 month long intensive shamanic school, let's call it for lack of a better word. And the shaman's like, nah, it's not enough time. No, 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 I'm not gonna do that. The next day, the shaman comes to us and says, I had a dream last night. And in this dream, we did a 1 month long course. And it was 4 weeks. And week one, we did air. And week two, we did earth. And week three, we did fire. And week four, like every day, a different element. Every week, a different element. And every day of that week, something with that element. And every week, different plant medicine with that element. And I was like, say less, take my money. Like, yes, let's do this.
Oh my god.
So we signed up for this month long
Wow.
intensive shamanic course,
That's amazing.
which I haven't told anybody about. I've told people like,
Right.
but not on camera,
Okay.
and I don't post
No,
about it on
it's-
Facebook
I
yet.
mean,
Okay,
so that experience.
that comes to an end. It was amazing, magical, eye opening. And like I had been working on personal development, but this is like a whole different world of another
Yeah.
dimension of personal development. Okay, so let's move that aside for a second. After that, I was like, okay, like I want to go to the Caribbean side of Costa Rica. I had only been in the Pacific side, and I had been in the center. I had been in the mountains. I hadn't been on the Atlantic coast, the Caribbean beaches. And I told the other people that were in the shamanic course, hey, I'm gonna go for a week long vacation in the Caribbean, and if I like it, I'm gonna move there. So if anybody wants to come for the vacation, I'm just gonna be there 1 week.
Okay.
So a few of them were like, "Yeah, let's do it," and it was our celebration,
Oh,
like our graduation,
yeah.
from
That's cute.
shamanic school.
That's cute.
So we go to the Caribbean, and I was like loving it. I was like, "Oh, this is where I'm gonna live." So I told them, I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna move here. I'm gonna go back, get my stuff, come here, move in here." So I invited them all. One person took me up on the offer. So this guy was ex-military. He was a chef, and he was a medic. So I'm like, okay, my housemate is gonna be ex-military chef medic.
My housemate.
I'm like, I got like, what else do I need?
Yeah, you have everything.
Yeah, and I don't like to cook, so I was like, all right, we got the cook of the house. I'm like, cool. So then I told him, I was like, hey, once Costa Rica opens up their borders, I want to host people. You could be the chef. I'm gonna be the coach. So he's like, all right, let's do it.
Oh, that's so.
Costa Rica opens up immediately as soon as we get to the Caribbean, Costa Rica. So we have clients right away. So he's the chef. Oh, he's a chef and also the boot camp. So we're doing beach boot camps.
Ooh,
because in the
that's
military he also did personal training, physical training, PT, I think they call it. So and he would coach people through that and teach them how to do that.
dope.
So we had it all. We perfect teamwork. Pa 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 pa. And we're hosting. And first it's just like private retreats. Then after a few months, I'm like, okay, I think the world's ready for group retreats. So I started doing group retreats again. And now, wow, that was November 2020. It's 2 years later. 2 years and 2 months later, I decided it's time to go back to international. So this is my first time to leave Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Since March 2020. I came to the US, passed by Florida, then I went to Europe, Portugal. I went hit one country in Africa, Morocco, went to Greece, went to Czech Republic, went to Austria, and I was like, okay, where do I want to host? So I added Morocco to the list. Morocco,
Nice.
I'm gonna host in Morocco in 2023.
Oh.
So 2023, I'm hosting both Costa Rica and Morocco. Whew, that's kind of like the catch up of
Everything, the whole journey.
wow.
It's been a long one.
Yeah.
It's a lot, and I'm sure you're leaving stuff like outside. So
Much. Like there's too much. Like
yeah, we can do a part.
each one of those is his own
Yeah.
world.
Wow.
Woo! Wow.
People in 2023, Morocco, Costa Rica, you can do like the retreats.
Yep. Dance, nature, life, bucket list retreats.
Yes. Oh my God, that's amazing.
I'd love to have you.
I would love to be there. You know, I have to. We'll talk after. You know,
See.
I'll be behind cameras. That's amazing. I just feel like, like I'm listening to you, and I'm just like me being like this person. I've never been scared of traveling. I used to travel all the time.
I can tell you're a traveler.
After what my experience and people who I listen to my podcast know, it was for me, it was like a scary thing, and it was like something that I love so much, right? And I didn't want to live in that fear. So like listening to you going through all this, like, oh, I was living in El Campo, I was like, bro, like I couldn't be that person last year. Before, yeah, I would be like, I at some point I thought, you know what, I want to do that. I want to live like in the middle of nowhere in La Jungla. I don't care. But then last year was just like, I will never. Like, what if something happens to me? You know what I mean? And I just admire that. I admire that you just go with it and
I was
just
a city boy.
trust yourself.
I was a city boy afraid of all that.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I would think that it was yucky.
Really? Wow.
Now I'm like climbing trees.
Now you think that city is yucky?
Yeah, for
City is
sure.
yucky.
I mean, like, look,
It is
we
yucky.
could get we could get so deep depending what how many rabbit holes you want to go down. But like, look, we use the word dirty,
Yeah.
right? The word dirty comes from dirt.
Yeah.
Dirt is clean. Earth
Yeah.
cleanses itself.
Mm-hmm.
What's actually dirty is us.
Mm-hmm.
We litter, we throw garbage.
Yeah.
So, like, if you really think about the dirty thing in this planet is what we
What we do.
contribute,
Mm-hmm.
or how we not, or how we don't contribute to the cleanliness that it does itself.
Mm.
You know, so the planet cleans itself. We are dirtying it, and like, why do we call it dirt? Dirty is like the wrong word
Yeah.
because that dirty is clean. Dirt is clean.
Mm.
We also call this soiled, but soil is also clean. It cleans itself. The ocean cleans itself.
Yeah.
You know, so I love this because we use language
Mm-hmm.
in a way that hurts us so often.
Yeah.
And I want to focus on using language in a way that helps us. But here's another one. When we say, oh, that's wild. Oh, that's wild. Normally, we say wild when it's not normal, but wild is normal.
Right.
So something growing in the wild is natural.
Mm.
Why do we change the meaning of natural?
That's
So when we're like, oh, that's wild, we don't mean it's natural. We mean like, oh, it's unnatural. It's crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like people just like change. It's like, for example, I name of my podcast Chisme. Like, I wanted to redefine
Chisme.
that word because a lot of people use chisme as a negative thing, but it's really a form of communication
Oh, yeah,
that
like,
our ancestors
This
used.
is not chisme at all. This is like,
estamos chismeando. But it's a positive
this
thing.
is
That's why it's called
positive
chisme
chisme.
that matters. Because it's
Oh,
yeah, exactly.
I like
That's
it.
what,
Redefine it.
redefining it. You know what I mean? So
I'm with you.
yeah, it's like it's all about redefining not just like words, but redefining ourselves. I feel like
Redefining ourselves.
because we always think that we are this person, but in reality, we're always evolving, and I think that's what's been happening with a lot of us in this past couple of years. I guess like with the pandemic that kind of like pushed us to maybe face ourselves, our shadows, right? Even we didn't want to because we live in a world that's go 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 go, like, and you just forget about like who you are, and you just kind of like start forming this persona that is being formed by the outside world instead of like inside. So you're doing all these things that you're doing with like the retreats and the shamanic. I feel like that's I want to use the word wild. Okay. No, like that's amazing because
It
other
is
people
wild
can
because
do
it's
that.
so natural.
It is natural.
The shamanic way
Yeah.
is the natural way. Like
Yeah.
they learn how to example medicine is in nature.
Yeah.
So like, oh, you have a headache, this little leaf, if you crush it and
Yeah.
you put it in your tea, like medicine is in the trees.
Yeah. It is.
That's natural.
Yeah.
It's wild.
It is. It is. No, and I feel like it's great. A lot of people don't want to face that, right? We don't want to face our own selves, and that's kind of sad sometimes, you know. But then that's why the universe or whatever we want to call it, right? Life, God pushes us sometimes into certain situations so we can finally face life, and I don't know.
love
I guess
that.
like rebirth ourselves and whatnot.
Rebirth.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like it every we go through seasons, right? We go through chapters, and I feel like some of us get stuck in one. It's like that's it. This is it. This is what I'm gonna be. But you don't have to be. You know, you can't just like do whatever you want. It's like how they say you're the you're the one. What is it like? You're the author of your own story,
Your
right?
own
Your
life,
own
your own-
story, exactly. You can just like change it whenever you want, and I feel like that's some main message here. But
You are the jail cell. You're the key. You can let yourself out whenever you want.
Exactly.
Nah, and I love that concept of. I had a client that one day said to me, Juan, that's the story of my life. That's the
Mm.
story of my life. And I'm like, perfect. I'm so glad he said that. Because who writes the story of your life? Who's the author? Who's holding the pen? Who writes the next chapter? Who writes the next sentence? Who writes the next word? I mean,
Yeah.
this could be volume two also. Like, you could change that old book and start a new book.
Exactly. It's funny you say story of my life because I did a reel about it. Like I spoke, like I had a message in me and saying like a lot of people when they say, "Oh, this is the story of my life," it's kind of like just being complacent with what is happening in your life, like feeling the I guess self pity
Mhm.
in a way, and you just stay where you are instead of like making the change to change that
Take an action.
story. Exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. So a lot of us, I don't want to say them, but a lot of us, that are here listening, we say that. I'm like, oh yeah, this happens to me all the time. It's the story of my life. It's kind of like I'm gonna keep repeating these patterns instead of like making that change, right?
Yes.
So
Hmm.
I
I
love
love that.
that. I love this story. Oh my gosh. So um, before we close, because it's been like, and we're gonna go see the sunset if we're gonna make it or not. But anyway, guys, well, first of all, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
sharing
My
all this
pleasure.
stuff. And
We're
to
gonna need part two.
yes, we're gonna need that. We're gonna need that. You're gonna do it when you're like in some place and
When you are,
oh,
when we are
when we are
in some
some place.
country. Yeah, we'll do it
Exactly.
in another country,
We do it.
in another continent.
We do it kind of like a series. That'll be
Oh,
dope. That'll
yes.
be dope. Before we close, I always ask my guests to kind of like share maybe three things that you would like to, yes, three things, to tell our listeners. Anything you want. I guess like the theme of this episode will be kind of like running towards, something,
Ooh.
with like fear instead of going. So I feel like maybe
Dude,
say
you're
three
so.
things.
How'd you put that all together? I'm like,
Well,
part of
I'm
me was
listening.
like, man, I went to so many topics, but you just found what ties them together,
Yeah.
running towards instead of away.
Yeah, so maybe I'll just cut this episode and do it this minute and then but yeah, guys, this is
It could
the
be a 1 minute
episode.
episode or 120 minutes.
Like if you don't want to listen to the whole thing, fast forward to an hour and 21 and this is it.
Boom.
No. But anyway, three things.
Okay, three things. Three things. Okay. I love it. I love it. All right. I think thing number one. So I'm going to make it my own sentence. The
Mm-hmm.
sentence is three things that help me run towards what I want.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I would say tip number one is emotional regulation.
Mm.
So when I'm not emotionally regulated, it's when I'm acting on fear, when I'm acting on anger, anxiety, depression, stress.
Mm-hmm.
So for me to get emotionally regulated, one tip is breathing. And it sounds so silly. I just heard your breath.
And
Good
I just
job.
yeah, because I think I was holding it for a while, and I usually do breath work.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love
I
it.
love breath work.
Yeah.
So one easy one for people that have never done it is the 4 second inhale.
Mm-hmm.
So to take a 4 second inhale, then exhale. Three of those babies. So 3 4 second inhales, 3 4 second exhales. And you could do both from your nose, or you could do nose and mouth. I like to change it up. It's fun for me to feel which one feels which way
Yeah.
on a different day. And what that does, here's the fancy words, it stimulates your parasympathetic nervous system,
Mm-hmm.
which is just fancy words for it relaxes you.
Just yeah.
And the parasympathetic part of your nervous system is the one that's in charge of bliss, in charge of happiness, in
Mm-hmm.
charge of joy, in charge of creativity. The sympathetic part of the nervous system is the one that's dealing with the stress, that dealing with threats. That's what they call the part of the limbic system that turns on and tells you flight, fight, flight,
Like
freeze,
mm-hmm.
and fawn. Now they've added that as a fourth response. Any case, that's all in the sympathetic nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
So when you take this deep breath, it's kind of like you close that door
Mm-hmm.
and open this door where you can relax, where you can enter joy, where you can enter bliss.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how one of the ways that I get my emotional regulation. All right, so tip number two is, so we got three tips. Tip number two is, I ask myself a question. Um, Perhaps let's use the one that came up earlier. What am I grateful for right now? So by asking myself, what am I grateful for right now? I can also shift my focus. So if I'm focused on what's lacking, so the scarcity mindset is the one that's then ruling my decisions.
Yeah.
If I focus on what I'm grateful for, I enter the abundance mindset. When I'm making decisions from my abundance mindset as opposed to my scarcity mindset, the decisions are totally different,
Yeah.
perhaps even opposite.
Yeah.
So by asking myself, what am I grateful for? I help activate this abundance mindset, this gratitude mindset. All right, so that was tip number two. Tip number three, I asked myself, what is my intention? And, and although like someone could say, I could start with that. Yeah, you can. But if you start with what is my intention and you're not emotionally regulated, and if you start with what is my intention and you're in scarcity mindset, the answer is going to be totally different.
Yeah.
So for me, asking that last after I'm emotionally regulated, after I'm in abundance and gratitude mindset, I can really give my real answer. Like,
Right.
what is my intention?
Yeah.
And what does this mean? Well, let's say intention could be goal, intention could be desire, intention could be want, intention could be need. Intention is like, what do I intend to right now? What do I want right now? What do I need right now? And by stating it, by asking yourself, by even entering the mindset of what is it? Like what is the intention that I have? Now we can find a clear path to it.
Yeah.
Because we could answer the question. Okay, so like perhaps our intention right now is to go catch a sunset, to get that picture from El Morro, which is the fortress, the it's like a castle, the castle of the Caribbean. So by having that intention, we can make a clear plan to it. When you don't state your intention, then what are you doing? You're just going through the motions, you're getting distracted. When you don't have an intention, it's easy to get distracted. When you have an intention, you understand that everything that's getting in the way is a distraction,
Right.
So boom.
I was gonna record that part, but
I can repeat it.
No, let's just finish. So that's so good. I love that, like, the intention, and it's so true what you were saying about, like, instead of doing that first, like, do the other two, because definitely when you feel like, okay, I want to get this, but then, like, if you don't really understand, like, that, it's not going to be authentic, I think, or genuine, maybe, because in the moment you're probably going through some other emotions that it be blocking, that intention, or like the actual, yeah. So I love it. Thank you so much, Juan. People, please follow him. Where they can follow you?
Facebook's the one I use the most. Juan Calderon. Boom, boom, boom,
You need to
boom.
get you on TikTok and Instagram more.
Okay. Instagram, I don't use it that much, but I'm starting to use it again. It's the, like THE, the Juan and only. Juan as in Juan. And only Wanderer. I know that's crazy. The Juan and only Wanderer.
No worries, people. I'm gonna put it in the description of the episode because yo tampoco, I didn't get that, but it's okay. It's a lot going on. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to this Chisme. I hope you enjoy it. Please send me comments, emails with any questions you have for me or for Juan. And with that being said, I wish you an amazing rest of the week. Please surround yourself with authentic energy. Take care of yourselves and be true to yourself. I will talk to you next time.
That's a beautiful backdrop. Wow.
It is.